The rumor spread like wildfire through the halls of the Galactica Academy's physical education wing. A human was joining gym class. Plek, a small, blue-skinned Venari, trembled, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly as he clung to the ceiling. His friend, CRA, a hulking thoth with skin resembling cracked volcanic rock, grimly confirmed the news. A human named Jack Torren, transferred from Earth, that infamous Death World. The room went silent. Tales of Earth were legendary, a planet of constant peril, where the oceans were acidic, the plants razor-sharp, and the creatures, well, they weren't known for their intelligence. And at the top of this food chain? Humans. Creatures said to thrive on chaos and violence. Even the most skeptical species couldn't ignore the evidence. Humans possessed an unbelievable survival rate, adapting to almost any environment, and their strength seemed almost supernatural. The idea of a Deathworlder in gym class was unsettling, to say the least. Votran, a usually composed Cath, paced nervously, his full legs clicking on the floor. He voiced his concerns about safety and the peaceful nature of gym class being disrupted by a beast. Whispers filled the room. Urx, a spherical flatty, mentioned rumors of humans lifting 3 times their own weight. Thurland, a sleek Zerini, added that they could run for hours on end. CRA worried about being grabbed, they weren't built to withstand that kind of force. Plek, overwhelmed, squeaked and vanished into an air vent. As panic escalated, Instructor Brock, a towering Yukian with stern green skin and 2 mouths, intervened. He demanded order and reminded them that Galactica Academy embraced diversity, even from Death Worlds. The students quieted, but the tension remained. Even Brock seemed slightly uneasy. He warned them to behave, his eyes fixed on the door, anticipating Jack's arrival. The door hissed open, and there he stood, Jack Torren, the Deathworlder. He wasn't exceptionally tall or sleek, but he carried himself with a quiet confidence. His muscular build hinted at immense strength, but it was more than that. He had a presence, an aura of someone who didn't need to prove anything. His short brown hair and calm expression almost suggested boredom. He scanned the room, taking in the diverse array of aliens staring back with a mixture of fear and awe, seemingly unfazed. If anything, he looked a little puzzled. Brock introduced Jack to the class, reminding them to show him respect. Jack simply offered a casual hey, but his voice carried an unexpected weight that sent Plek scurrying deeper into the vent. The students froze, anticipating some sort of display. Brock, sensing the paralysis, clapped his hands, prompting them to begin their warm-up. The class dispersed, giving Jack a wide berth, treating him like a live grenade. Jack, seemingly unaware of the apprehension, found a spot and started stretching. Votran, struggling with a stretch, whispered to CRA, marveling at Jack's lack of perspiration. CRA, equally bewildered, agreed, muttering about how untrustworthy non-sweaters were. Jack, oblivious, finished stretching and leaned against the wall, his expression still relaxed. He surveyed the gym, almost looking bored. Thurland whispered to a struggling Votran that Jack was analyzing their weaknesses, planning his attack. Votran's eyes widened in fear. Brock, his usual confidence wavering slightly, approached Jack, suggesting they move on to circuit training. Jack readily agreed. Brock announced the circuit, outlining the 10 stations designed to test strength, agility, and endurance. The aliens hesitated, no one wanting to be near Jack. They imagined him throwing weights across the room or bench pressing the entire class. Brock's urging finally got them moving. Jack began the circuit, lifting the heaviest weight with effortless repetitions. Gran, a tiny Trari, watched in awe, recalling his inability to even budge the bar. Jack moved on to the agility course, navigating the obstacles with ease while Plek, attempting to follow, ended up in a tangled heap. At the running track, the class stopped pretending to exercise and openly watched Jack's effortless run. Yerlik, a flatty, marveled at his stamina. Thurland, panting from his own efforts, explained that humans were built for this, speculating about Jack's likely encounter with a 3-headed monster the previous week. CRA, dripping with sweat, grumbled about the unfairness of it all. Jack, finishing his run, looked around, confused by the stares. He innocently inquired if this was part of the warm-up. News of a human joining gym class at the Galactica Academy spread through the physical education wing like a contagious virus. Plek, a small Venari with azure skin and 3 rapidly blinking eyes, trembled as he clung to the ceiling in terror. CRA, his friend, a hulking Thoth whose rocky hide resembled a volcanic landscape, grimly confirmed the unsettling rumor. It was true, a human named Jack Torren, a transfer student from the infamous Deathworlder of Earth, was joining their class. A hushed silence descended upon the room. The legendary tales of Earth, a planet of perpetual danger, were well known. Stories of corrosive oceans, flora armed with razor-sharp edges, and fauna infamous for its lack of intellect filled the hushed air. And reigning supreme at the top of this treacherous food chain were the humans, being said to flourish amidst chaos and violence. Even the most logical species at the Academy couldn't dismiss the undeniable evidence. Humans possessed an almost unbelievable rate of survival, adapting to virtually any environment with seemingly supernatural strength. The prospect of a Deathworlder joining their peaceful gym class was, to put it mildly, disturbing. Votran, a Cath typically known for his composure, paced nervously, the clicking of his forelegs against the floor echoing the anxiety in the room. He voiced his apprehension about the safety of his classmates and the disruption of the tranquil nature of their gym sessions by this creature. Whispers of fear and speculation filled the air. Urx, a spherical flatty, recounted rumors of humans effortlessly lifting objects 3 times their own mass. Thurland, a sleek Zerini, chimed in with tales of humans running for hours on end without fatigue. CRA expressed concern about the possibility of being grabbed by the human, their bodies not designed to withstand such immense force. Overwhelmed by the escalating panic, Plek emitted a small squeak and vanished into a nearby air vent. As the anxiety reached a fever pitch, Instructor Brock, a towering Yukian with stern green skin and 2 mouths, intervened. He demanded order with a booming voice, reminding the students that Galactica Academy prided itself on embracing diversity, even those hailing from the most dangerous planets. The students reluctantly quieted, but the tension remained palpable. Even Brock, normally unflappable, appeared slightly uneasy. He cautioned them to behave respectfully, his eyes fixed on the entrance, anticipating Jack's arrival. With a hiss, the door slid open, revealing Jack Torren, the Deathworlder. He wasn't particularly tall or exceptionally streamlined, but he possessed a quiet self-assurance. His physique hinted at considerable strength, but it was more than just his muscular build. He exuded an aura of someone who didn't need to demonstrate his power. His short, brown hair and composed expression almost suggested an air of indifference. Jack surveyed the room, his gaze sweeping over the diverse array of aliens staring back with a mixture of apprehension and wonder. He appeared unfazed by their scrutiny. If anything, he looked slightly perplexed. Brock formally introduced Jack to the class, reiterating his expectation of respectful behavior. Jack simply offered a casual hey, but his voice held an unexpected resonance that caused Plek to retreat further into the ventilation shaft. The students remained frozen, anticipating some kind of dramatic display. Brock, sensing their paralysis, clapped his hands sharply, prompting them to commence their warm-up exercises. The class dispersed, cautiously giving Jack a wide berth, treating him as if he were a volatile explosive. Jack, seemingly oblivious to their apprehension, located a vacant spot and began stretching. Votran, struggling with a particularly challenging stretch, whispered to CRA, expressing his astonishment at Jack's complete lack of perspiration. CRA, equally bewildered, concurred, muttering about the inherent untrustworthiness of individuals who didn't sweat. Jack, unaware of their hushed conversation, finished his stretches and leaned against the wall, his expression still one of relaxed indifference. He observed the gym, appearing almost bored. Thurland, noticing Jack's gaze, whispered to a struggling Votran that the human was analyzing their weaknesses, strategically planning his attack. Votran's eyes widened with fear. The gossip about a human joining gym class spread through Galactica Academy like ripples in a pond. Plek, the small, blue Venari, trembled visibly, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly as he clung to the ceiling for dear life. His friend, CRA, the massive Thoth with skin like volcanic rock, confirmed the disturbing news. Their new classmate was Jack Torren, a transfer from Earth, the infamous Deathworld. An unnerving silence fell over the room. Everyone knew the stories of Earth, a planet where survival was a daily struggle. Tales of acidic seas, razor-edged plants, and creatures driven by pure instinct were legendary. And at the peak of this dangerous ecosystem? Humans. Beings said to thrive in chaos and violence. Even the most skeptical alien couldn't deny their incredible survival rate, their adaptability, and their seemingly superhuman strength. The very notion of a Deathworlder in their gym class was, to say the least, unsettling. Votran, the typically composed Cath, paced anxiously, the clicking of his legs on the floor a rhythmic counterpoint to the rising tension. He voiced concerns about safety and the disruption a beast like this could bring to their normally peaceful gym sessions. Murmurs of fear and speculation filled the air. Urx, the spherical flatty, recalled rumors of humans lifting incredible weights. Thurland, the sleek Zarini, added that they could run for vast distances without tiring. CRA worried about the sheer force of a human's grip, a force their bodies were not designed to withstand. Overwhelmed by the escalating anxiety, Plek squeaked and vanished into a nearby air vent. Instructor Brock, the towering Yukian with stern green skin and two mouths, intervened. His booming voice demanded order. He reminded the students that Galactica Academy celebrated diversity, welcoming beings from even the most extreme environments. The room quieted, but a palpable tension lingered. Even Brock, typically unflappable, seemed a little on edge. He urged them to be respectful, his gaze fixed on the door, awaiting Jack's arrival. The entrance hissed open, revealing Jack Torren, the human. He wasn't unusually tall or imposing, but there was a quiet confidence in his stance. His muscular build suggested significant strength, but it was more than that. He carried himself with an air of self-assuredness, as if he had nothing to prove. His short brown hair and calm expression almost suggested boredom. He looked around the room, his gaze sweeping over the diverse array of alien species staring back at him with a mixture of apprehension and wonder. He didn't flinch or react, seeming, if anything, a little puzzled by their intense scrutiny. Jack readily accepted the challenge, a wide, disarming smile spreading across his face. "What's the challenge?" he asked, and Frack, slightly taken aback by the human's easy agreement, quickly designated the balance beam. "Whoever crosses fastest wins," Frack declared, a test of agility that most species could manage, but one that posed a particular challenge for someone of Frack's, shall we say, less than solid constitution. Jack simply shrugged and gestured for Frack to go first. The class held its collective breath as Frack, wobbling precariously, inched his way onto the narrow beam. His gelatinous form swayed and quivered with every painstaking step, a spectacle of concentration and impending disaster. Halfway across, Frack's balance faltered, and with a final wobble, he collapsed onto the floor with a resounding splat, his form dissolving into a quivering puddle. Plek, witnessing the spectacle, emitted a shriek and vanished once more into the air vent. After a moment of stunned silence, Frack recoalesced, grumbling to himself. "I slipped," he muttered. Jack, still smiling, stepped onto the beam and crossed it in a matter of seconds, a feat of effortless balance. "That was fun," he commented, hopping down. "Who's next?" The room remained silent. No one dared volunteer. The next activity was a relay race, an event typically dominated by the quicker, lighter species. Thurland, the reigning champion, felt a bead of sweat trickle down his brow as he eyed Jack. He imagined the human effortlessly jogging to victory, leaving everyone else in the dust. Brock blew the whistle, and the race began. Thurland's partner, Groan, the frail Trari, took off with a shaky start, his thin limbs struggling to propel him forward. In the other lane, Urx, the floating flatty, glided alongside Groan, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by an expression of pure terror. Then it was Jack's turn. He took off like a shot, covering the distance with terrifying speed. Groan barely registered Jack passing him. Thurland, watching from the sidelines, shook his head in disbelief. "He's not human," he muttered. Groan finally crossed the finish line, gasping for air, just as Jack casually jogged past, not even breaking a sweat. Erks, floating beside him, looked like he might dissolve from relief. "We survived," he whispered. Thurland, despite his better judgment, couldn't resist complaining. "This is a competition, not a human highlight reel." Jack overheard and turned around with a sheepish grin. "Sorry, man, wasn't trying to show off," he said. "Just running the race." Thurland, taken aback by Jack's sincerity, just stammered, "Oh, sure." The obstacle course was next, a series of hurdles, climbing walls, and rope swings designed to test agility and balance. Frack, still recovering from his balance beam mishap, trembled nervously in the corner. Brock, increasingly tense, announced that the course would be done in pairs. Jack was partnered with Krax, the massive Thoth whose initial wariness of Jack had been palpable. Krax, determined to prove himself, insisted on leading. He charged through the first few hurdles, relying on brute force rather than finesse, shattering obstacles in his path. Jack followed, carefully navigating the debris field Krax left in his wake. The other aliens watched in disbelief as Krax bulldozed his way through the course, his grunts and growls echoing through the gym. Jack, unfazed, moved with a practiced grace, clearly capable of completing the course in a fraction of the time. However, he remained behind Krax, allowing the Thoth to maintain his lead. When they finally finished, Krax, panting heavily, collapsed onto one knee. Jack offered a surprisingly gentle pat on the back. "You did great, man," he said. "Nice work." Krax, surprised by the compliment, looked up at Jack, and for the first time, a flicker of something other than fear crossed his face. The other aliens, however, were in shock. "He let Krax lead," Plek whispered from his perch on the ceiling. "He could have finished in seconds." The final challenge was the Zahn lift, a weighted platform that required incredible strength and perfect synchronization to raise and hold while balanced on top. Thurland, paired with Jack, felt a surge of anxiety. "This is your department, I'm guessing," he muttered, eyeing the platform nervously. Jack grinned. "Don't worry, I got this." As Thurland stepped onto the platform, Jack lifted it effortlessly, holding it steady as if it weighed nothing. Thurland wobbled slightly, but Jack's steady grip provided unexpected stability. Across the gym, Krax struggled to lift the platform with Erks perched precariously on top, while Frack had given up entirely, flopping around on the ground as Plek screamed from a safe distance. Jack, still holding the platform with ease, called out to Thurland, "You're doing great up there." Thurland, relieved, gave a shaky thumbs up. "Just trying not to fall." When they finally completed the challenge, the other teams were still lagging far behind. Brock, impressed but trying to maintain his composure, announced Jack and Thurland as the winners. Thurland, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over him, hopped off the platform. "Did we really just win?" he asked. Jack smiled, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow, the first sign of exertion he'd shown all day. "You did awesome, man. That was fun." Thurland blinked. "Fun?" The news that a human was joining their gym class had spread through the Galactica Academy's physical education wing like wildfire. Plek, the small, blue-skinned Venari, trembled with anxiety, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly as he clung tightly to the ceiling. His friend, CRA, the hulking Thoth with skin like cracked volcanic rock, grimly confirmed the unsettling rumor. A human, Jack Torren, was transferring from Earth, the infamous Deathworld. The room fell deathly silent. The stories of Earth were legendary amongst the galactic community, a planet of constant danger where the oceans were corrosive, the plants were armed with razor-sharp edges, and the animals were notoriously lacking in intelligence. And reigning supreme at the top of this brutal food chain were humans, creatures said to revel in chaos and violence. Even the most scientifically minded species couldn't ignore the evidence. Humans possessed an almost unbelievable survival rate, adapting to almost any environment, and exhibiting a strength that seemed to defy natural laws. The thought of having a Deathworlder in their gym class was, to put it mildly, disconcerting. Votran, the typically calm and collected Cath, paced nervously, the clicking of his legs echoing in the tense silence. "This is unacceptable," he declared, his voice filled with apprehension. Gym class is meant to be a safe space. We're here to strengthen our bodies, improve flexibility, and engage in peaceful physical activities. Not to wrestle with some sort of beast. Whispers of fear and speculation rippled through the room. Urks, the spherical flatty, floated anxiously, recalling rumors of humans lifting 3 times their own weight with a single arm. Thurland, the sleek and agile Zairini, added to the growing unease, recounting stories of humans running for hours on end without tiring. CRA, concerned for the physical well-being of his fellow classmates, voiced his worries about the potential for accidental injury. What if he grabbed someone, he growled. We're not built to withstand that kind of force. One wrong move and, splat. Overwhelmed by the mounting panic, Plek let out a small squeak and vanished into a nearby air vent. As the tension escalated, Instructor Brock, the imposing Yukian with stern green skin and 2 mouths, intervened. He clapped his hands sharply, his 2 mouths speaking in unison, a unique characteristic of his species. Enough, he boomed. You will treat this new student with the same respect you would show any other. This is Galactica Academy. We embrace diversity here, even from death worlds. The students quieted down, but an underlying tension remained. Even Brock, normally unflappable, appeared slightly on edge. Just behave yourselves, he added, his gaze shifting towards the door. He'll be here any minute. The door hissed open, and there he stood, Jack Torren, the human from the death world. He wasn't as imposing as CRA, nor as sleek as Thurland, but he possessed a certain presence, an aura of quiet strength. While not exceptionally large, his muscular build hinted at a power that went beyond mere physique. He carried himself with an air of confidence, as if he had nothing to prove. His short brown hair and calm expression gave him an almost bored appearance. Jack's eyes swept across the room, taking in the diverse array of alien species staring back at him with a mixture of awe and apprehension. He seemed unfazed by their scrutiny, even slightly puzzled by the intense attention. Brock cleared his throat and gestured towards Jack. Class, he announced, his voice slightly strained, this is Jack Torren. He's new to the academy and will be joining your gym sessions. I expect you all to show him the same respect you'd show any of your peers. Jack offered a casual nod and a simple hey, but his voice held an unexpected resonance that sent Plek scurrying deeper into the air vent. The students remained frozen, anticipating some sort of dramatic display of power. Brock, sensing their apprehension, clapped his hands again. We'll begin with our usual warm-up, he instructed, his voice regaining its usual authority. You know the drill. Let's get moving. The class hesitantly dispersed, giving Jack a wide berth as if he were a live grenade waiting to detonate. Jack, seemingly oblivious to the nervous energy in the room, found a spot and began stretching, completely unaware of the chaos brewing around him. As the warm-up continued, the alien student's anxiety only intensified. Jack moved through the stretches with an almost unsettling ease, bending and twisting with no hint of strain, while some of the more fragile species were already struggling to catch their breath. Plek, having cautiously peeked out from the air vent, now hung from a ceiling beam, his 3 eyes wide with apprehension as he observed the human. He doesn't even perspire, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Below, CRA, grunting through his own stretches, his large frame not designed for such flexibility, muttered, you can't trust someone who doesn't sweat. It's unnatural. Jack, oblivious to the rising fear, finished his stretches and casually leaned against the wall, scanning the gym with a relaxed expression that bordered on boredom. Thurland, the sleek Zerini, sidled up to Votran, who was struggling to maintain his balance on 4 legs during a particularly challenging stretch. He's observing us, Thurland whispered, his voice laced with paranoia. Analyzing our weaknesses, figuring out who he can break first. Votran's eyes widened in alarm. Instructor Brock, his usual confidence wavering, approached Jack. Torren, he said, trying to maintain his authoritative tone, you seem quite comfortable. Perhaps we should proceed to the circuit training. I believe you'll find it a bit more stimulating. Jack simply shrugged. Sure, sounds good. Brock clapped his hands loudly, startling some of the more timid students. All right, Class, he announced. Circuit training. 10 stations, each designed to assess a different aspect of your physical capabilities, strength, agility, endurance, the whole package. Get to it. The aliens hesitated, casting nervous glances at Jack. No one wanted to be near the human during the exercises, anticipating some sort of spectacular display of power. Go! Brock barked, finally prompting them to move. Jack strolled to the first station, a weightlifting area. He picked up one of the heaviest bars, examining it curiously before effortlessly lifting it overhead again and again. Gran, the tiny Trari, watched from a safe distance, his antennae twitching nervously. That's the heaviest bar we have, he squeaked. I couldn't even move it last week. Jack set the bar down and moved on to the next station without a pause. At the agility course, he navigated the obstacles with effortless grace, while Plek, attempting to keep pace, ended up in a tangled heap. By the time Jack reached the endurance station, a long-distance running track, the entire class had abandoned their own exercises and were openly watching him. Yerlich, still floating cautiously near the ceiling, shook his head in disbelief. This is insane, he muttered. How is he not even tired? Thurland, leaning against a wall, panting from his own run, offered an explanation. Humans, he wheezed, they're built for this. It's what they do. Survive impossible conditions. He probably ran from a three-headed monster just last week. CRA, sweat dripping from his rocky hide, grumbled, it's not fair. It's just not right. Jack finished his run and looked around, puzzled by the stares. Is this part of the warm-up, too? He asked, completely serious. It was then that Frak, a large, gelatinous Jishian, decided to make his move. He oozed toward Jack, his body wobbling with every undulation. Frak wasn't known for being confrontational, but a mixture of fear and wounded pride spurred him to action. Deathworlder, Frak's voice wobbled, do you think you can just outshine everyone? We have strengths too, you know. Jack blinked, genuinely surprised. I mean, I guess? Frak expanded slightly, puffing himself up. You're not the only one with skills. I challenge you. The room fell silent. CRA muttered under his breath, oh no, Frak's going to get squashed. Jack, however, didn't seem offended. In fact, he smiled, a wide, friendly smile that somehow managed to make the aliens even more uneasy. All right, Jack said, cracking his knuckles. What's the challenge? The final challenge of the Galactica Academy gym class was the Zaan lift, a weighted platform requiring incredible strength and synchronization to raise and hold while balanced precariously on top. Thurland, partnered with Jack, felt a surge of apprehension. I'm guessing this is right up your alley, he mumbled, eyeing the intimidating platform. Jack simply grinned. Don't sweat it, I've got this. With Thurland positioned on the platform, Jack lifted it with surprising ease, holding it steady as though it weighed next to nothing. Thurland wobbled a bit, but Jack's unwavering grip provided an unexpected stability. Across the gym, Crack struggled to lift the platform with Urks perched nervously on top, while Frak, having given up entirely, lay sprawled on the floor as Plek shrieked encouragement, or perhaps warnings, from a safe distance. Jack, still holding the platform aloft without any visible strain, called out to Thurland, looking good up there. Thurland, relieved, offered a shaky thumbs up. Just don't drop me. When they finally completed the challenge, the other teams lagged far behind. Brock, impressed but maintaining his composure, announced Jack and Thurland the victors. Thurland, a wave of relief and disbelief washing over him, hopped off the platform. Did we actually win? He asked, still slightly dazed. Jack, wiping a single bead of sweat from his brow, the first sign of exertion he displayed all day, beamed. You were amazing. That was a blast. Thurland just blinked. A blast? The other teams, exhausted and slightly demoralized, lay scattered around the gym. Cracks, sprawled on the floor, groaned dramatically. I think my bones have turned to jelly, he complained. Urks, hovering anxiously nearby, offered a weak smile. You'll be fine. Mostly. Frack, still in a semi-gelatinous state, quivered on the floor, while Plek, safely ensconced in an air vent, muttered about the imminent demise of them all. As the class wound down, the initial fear and apprehension that had gripped the alien students began to dissipate. Jack, it turned out, wasn't the monster they'd envisioned. He was just different. Extraordinarily strong, impossibly fast, and capable of feats that defied their understanding of physics, but not malicious. He hadn't tried to humiliate them or flaunt his abilities, he'd worked with them, even when it would have been far easier to simply carry them through the challenges. The gym echoed with the sounds of heavy breathing and the occasional groan of discomfort as the alien students recovered from the final challenge. Even Brock looked slightly weary. Jack, however, was calmly stretching, as if the entire session had been a mere warm-up. He looked around the room, a genuine smile on his face, seemingly oblivious to the fact that half the class had nearly passed out trying to keep pace. Thurland, catching his breath, approached Jack. So, he began, is that, like, normal for you? Just casually dominating every exercise? Jack shrugged. I guess? I didn't want to, go overboard. Didn't want to make anyone feel bad. Thurland stared at him incredulously. Make anyone feel bad? You lifted that boulder like it was a beach ball. I thought Krax was going to have a heart attack just watching you. Jack looked genuinely concerned. Oh, wow, really? Sorry, I didn't mean to make things awkward. I just thought we were supposed to, try our best. Thurland shook his head, still bewildered. Your best is terrifying. Do you even realize how strong you are? Before Jack could respond, Krax, still sprawled on the floor, groaned and sat up. He growled, pointing a shaky finger at Jack, you're not normal. No way. There's no species that can do what you do and just be a student. You could probably crush that boulder with your mind, couldn't you? Jack raised his hands defensively. Whoa, no, definitely not. I'm just a regular guy. A human. Krax, Urks, and the rest of the class stared at him, utterly perplexed. A regular, what? Human, Jack repeated, scratching his head. From Earth. Groan, his voice a mix of awe and fear, spoke up. Earth is a death world, right? One of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy? Jack hesitated. Well, yeah, technically. But it's not that bad. We've got water, plants, nice beaches, some decent weather. He paused, then added as an afterthought, oh, and a few natural disasters here and there. But you get used to it. The class stared at him in horror. Natural disasters? Frack asked, his gelatinous form slowly recoalescing into a vaguely seated position. Like, what kind of disasters? Jack shrugged. Oh, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, the usual. But it's all pretty manageable, as long as you're not, standing right in the middle of one. Krax's jaw dropped. Manageable? You live on a planet where the ground tries to swallow you whole and the sky throws spinning winds of death at you, and you call that asterisk manageable asterisk? Jack blinked. Well, yeah. We have safety procedures and stuff. It's not like we're just running around getting flattened by lava all the time.